Is Bangladesh ditching India for China, and is India finally hitting back? A major trade fallout is unfolding between two of South Asia's largest economies, and it's got everything: import bans, China's rising clout, and a past struggle over who controls the region's trade routes. Let's break this down for you. In November next year, Bangladesh will graduate from the United Nations least developed country list. This means it will lose duty-free access to key export markets like the European Union. To soften that blow, Dhaka is making a sharp economic pivot, which is away from India but towards China. But this shift is putting pressure on its trade ties with New Delhi. On Saturday, the Indian government imposed fresh import restrictions on Bangladeshi goods, especially ready-made garments. This is Bangladesh's top export and a major source of foreign currency. This move allows India's earlier decision in April to scrap a 5-year-old transshipment facility. This facility helped Bangladesh ship goods smoothly to the west using Indian land and air routes. Government officials say these steps were triggered by similar restrictions from Dhaka and logistical issues like port congestion. But the bigger picture points to rising political and economic tensions. The growing chill is also linked to Bangladesh's interim chief advisor Mohammad Yunus, who's a Nobel-winning economist. Yunus has called for greater Chinese economic presence around India's northeast. This has further soured the trade equation with India. Meanwhile, China's support fits into its long-term goal of shrinking India's regional influence. Remember, India chose to stay out of China's RCEP trade bloc and is aligning more with the US, UK, EU, and EFTA nations to boost its manufacturing sector. India's garment import restrictions are not just political, they are also strategic. The country is pushing to bring labor-intensive jobs home, especially in the textile sector. With free trade agreements in place like the one with the UK, India is also negotiating similar access to EU and US markets. Think tank GTRI, or Global Trade Research Initiative, says Indian textile firms have long protested Bangladesh's competitive edge. GTRI notes top global brands like H&M, Zara, Primark, Uniqlo, and Walmart source apparel from Bangladesh, some of which enters India's domestic market. Indian manufacturers have long expressed concern over the uneven playing field. They pay a 5% GST on locally sourced fabric, while Bangladeshi firms import fabric duty-free from China and receive export incentives for sales to India, giving them an estimated 10 to 15% price advantage. Meanwhile, Bangladesh has also imposed new restrictions, this time on Indian yarn exports. A government official said Dhaka is now allowing yarn to be exported only via seaports, not land ports. This move, reportedly made under pressure from Bangladeshi textile mills, is puzzling since the land route is cheaper and quicker. Yarn makes up to 20% of India's total exports to Bangladesh, worth $11.38 billion in financial year 25. Cotton yarn and handloom exports alone stood at $2.39 billion last year. On the other hand, India imports garments worth over $700 million annually from Bangladesh. Meanwhile, China's influence in Bangladesh is no longer subtle. Since June 2020, China has granted 97% of Bangladeshi goods duty-free access. It's also helping Dhaka expand its export base and move up the industrial value chain. The Carnegie Endowment says Bangladesh hosts the largest number of Chinese-funded infrastructure projects in South Asia. And according to SIPRI, over 70% of Bangladesh's arms imports are Chinese, making Dhaka the second largest buyer of Chinese weapons globally. Former trade officer and GTRI head Ajay Srivastava said the fall of Sheikh Hasina's pro-India government in mid-2024 and the rise of an interim administration under Mohammad Yunus have brought a willingness to align with Beijing. Yunus's visit to China in March 2025 yielded $2.1 billion in new investments and cooperation agreements. China's involvement in sensitive infrastructure projects like the Teesta River development marks a growing strategic footprint, posing a direct challenge to India's influence in the region. As China expands its economic and strategic muscle in South Asia, India finds itself recalibrating old alliances. For now, trade ties between New Delhi and Dhaka are at their frostiest in years.